Warring for millennia, the light side Jedi thought they at last defeated their enemies in the dark side Sith by the year 1032 BBY, becoming the dominant force-wielding organization in the galaxy, presiding over centuries of relative peace. Yet in truth, the Sith merely changed strategies, with Darth Bane implementing a 1,000-year plot completed by Darth Sidious to destroy the Jedi Order while conquering their allies in the Galactic Republic. Posing as a good-natured senator from Naboo, Sidious infiltrated the Republic government and used the many resources of his Sith Order to manipulate events until elected as Chancellor. Seeking emergency powers so he might rule with absolute authority, Sidious arranged for a civil war to wreak havoc across the galaxy, creating conditions which pushed the Senate to grant him greater control over the Republic. Arming the Separatists with droid soldiers, the Republic fought with human clones created on the world Camino, based on the genetic profile of Jango Fett, a fearsome Mandalorian warrior considered by many as the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. An ancient warrior culture from the Outer Rim planet of Mandalore. For most of their history, the Mandalorian people divided themselves into clans, living by a code of honor which demanded allegiance to the Mandalore, a respected leader with absolute authority who earned and defended their position by engaging challengers in single combat to the death. Their skills as warriors allowed them to colonize and conquer other worlds, growing their ranks by accepting anyone of any background as Mandalorian on the condition they lived by the Mandalorian creed. Eventually, this expansion led them into conflict with the Jedi Order, who protected the ruling galactic superpower known as the Old Republic. Ever eager for glorious combat, Mandalorians went to war with the Jedi, but ultimately suffered a terrible defeat, which ruined much of their homeworld. Utterly devastated, many Mandalorians laid down their arms and dedicated themselves to the reconstruction of their world, while others left to populate colony planets. Over the next 1,000 years, most Mandalorians turned away from their ancient traditions, remaining in relative isolation until 42 BBY, when resentment over their pacification led to a civil war, won by the new Mandalorian movement, which rejected their warrior past, transforming their culture into one of intergalactic neutrality and non-violence, while exiling those who refused to accept the ruling government. Yet this pacifist ideology did not last long, leading to yet another civil war during the Clone Wars, which restored their warrior culture and the position of Mandalore. A foundling from Concord Dawn, adopted into Mandalorian society, Jango Fett was a veteran of the earlier Civil War before later becoming a bounty hunter, earning a famed reputation across the galaxy which brought him to the attention of Darth Tyrannus, also known as Count Dooku, secret apprentice to the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, who hired him as the human template for the Republic's clone army. As part of his payment, Jango Fett demanded the creation of a special clone with no alterations to raise as a son. Naming him Boba, the boy was trained as a bounty hunter and warrior, accompanying his father on missions from a young age, and thus was present when his father fought for the Separatists during the First Battle of Geonosis, watching in horror as Jango was beheaded by the Jedi Master Mace Windu. Recovering his father's Mandalorian armor and ship Slave One, Boba followed in Jango's footsteps, beginning his journey to become one of the most famous warriors in the galaxy. As a young but talented child, Boba Fett entered into a partnership with the reputable bounty hunters Aurra Sing, Bossk, and Castus to seek vengeance against Mace Windu for his father's death. However, Boba's better nature prevented him from being as ruthless as the other bounty hunters, and ultimately failed in his mission. Though Boba and Bossk were arrested, and Castus killed when he attempted to betray the others, Aurra Sing escaped capture. Imprisoned on Coruscant for a time, Boba eventually regained his freedom to form the Krait's Claw Syndicate, a team of expert bounty hunters based out of Tatooine, working on operations involving well-known figures like the Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus, the former Sith apprentice Asajj Ventress, and Jedi Knight Quinlan Vos. Working out of a poor, harsh, and dangerous desert mining world in the Outer Rim, Tatooine was largely ignored by the rest of the galaxy, though the Hutt cartel maintained a strong presence on the planet. Wearing his father's Mandalorian armor, repainted green and yellow, and flying aboard Jango's ship Slave One, Boba Fett's reputation grew rapidly over the years, until he too was considered the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. though things changed drastically over the decades of his career, with Darth Sidious gaining absolute authority over the Republic before converting it into a galactic empire by the end of the Clone Wars. Boba remained steadfast, living by a personal code of honor as he completed contracts for credits. In time, he went to work for Jabba the Hutt, a wealthy crime lord on Tatooine, and later Darth Vader, Sith apprentice to Darth Sidious, taking a job to capture a pilot associated with a rebel movement seeking to overthrow the Emperor. Though he failed to apprehend the Force-wielding young man, Boba discovered his name was Skywalker and relayed the information to Darth Vader, who learned for the first time his son was alive. A few years later, he once again took a job from Darth Vader, hired to capture the allies of Luke Skywalker, including Han Solo, Leia Organa, and Chewbacca. Tracking the Millennium Falcon ship, Han Solo was eventually captured on Bespin and frozen in carbonite, before Vader sent him with Boba Fett to Jabba the Hutt on Tatooine, who placed a bounty on Han Solo when he lost the crime lord's cargo and failed to pay what was owed. Though his journey was beset with many dangers and delays, Fett eventually completed his mission. Continuing to work on Tatooine, he was present when Luke Skywalker and his allies killed Jabba the Hutt and freed Han Solo, who then knocked Boba Fett into the Great Pit of Carkoon, where the crime lord conducted brutal executions by feeding victims to a vicious sarlacc, which digested meals over a 1,000-year period. Though Boba Fett was presumed dead, he escaped with his life, but lost his father's armor in the process. Found by Jawas, the armor was next acquired by Cobb Vanth, a local sheriff seeking to restore law and order, who then gave it to the Mandalorian Din Djarin as payment for services rendered. Remaining in seclusion for years while Sidious was defeated and the Empire fell to the rebels, who created a new republic, Boba Fett eventually gained a partner when he rescued the bounty hunter Fennec Shand, as she was left for dead in the desert, earning her respect and loyalty. Tracking down Din Djarin, Boba proved the armor belonged to his father Jango and was finally reunited with his rightful inheritance. Forming a bond of respect with Din Djarin, Boba and Fennec helped him defend and later rescue his Force-sensitive ward Grogu, who was then taken to the ship of the Imperial loyalist Moff Gideon. This mission then led them to meet Bo-Katan Kryze, a Mandalorian leader seeking the Darksaber from Moff Gideon, a symbol of their people, which would allow her to claim the mantle of Mandalore. Though Bo-Katan did not consider Boba a true Mandalorian, they worked together to infiltrate the Imperial ship, successfully rescuing Grogu, capturing Gideon, and taking the Darksaber. However, because Din Djarin was raised by an isolationist sect of Mandalorians who knew little about the customs and traditions of the homeworld, he did not realize that by personally defeating Moff Gideon and taking the Darksaber in his hands, he became the rightful heir to the title of Mandalore, meaning the only way Bo-Katan could have it was to defeat him in honorable combat. Yet before the issue could be decided, the immensely powerful Jedi Master Luke Skywalker arrived on his X-Wing, rescuing them from a platoon of Dark Troopers in order to take Grogu for Force training. With their mission complete, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand parted company with Din and the others, returning to Jabba's palace on Tatooine, where they killed Hutt's replacement Bib Fortuna and took over leadership of the crime syndicate. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Sith Ben 24, Eden Gruyer Spicy Sky Frugran, Tio the Iron Banker, and Xavier Defender of the Flame. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to click like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/civilizationx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.